Hello, everyone. My name is Margherita Ghetti. I am the Next Wave programmer here at Jewish Film Institute. Welcome to JFI Cinegogue Summer Days, a reimagined festival experience that started at the drive-in last Thursday and continued throughout the weekend with a number of virtual screenings and live conversations. Although in a unique format, we've been enjoying seeing you at the movies these past few days, and we hope you had a chance to experience good films and compelling conversations. It is my pleasure to welcome you all tonight. This is our closing night. Good to see so many of you here. We'd love to see your faces, so please turn your camera on. We invite you to do that so we can feel like we are in a movie theater. I am also so happy to be here with our guests, longtime friend of JFI, filmmaker and educator Judith Helfand. We have a precious opportunity to chat with Judith and learn more about her documentary Love and Stuff and to celebrate Jewish cinema. Later tonight after this program, we'll continue on that celebratory note with our Cinegogue Summer Days closing night award ceremony and cocktail hour, and you're all invited to join us, and you can find a link to the event in the chat. Before we start, on behalf of JFI, I'd like to thank all of the members and donors who have stepped up to stand by JFI in these challenging times, as well as our community partners, Building Jewish Bridges, One Table, Eat, Drink Films, California Film Institute, Reboot, and Sketchfest. We thank them to help us provide our programming free to the public in order to ensure accessibility for everyone. And as we wait for theaters to reopen, we'll continue bringing you Jewish content, film, and conversations well beyond summer days. So please check out our upcoming events on jfi.org and on our social media. It is now my pleasure to welcome to the virtual stage our guest, Judith Helfand, tuning in from New York City. Welcome, Judith. Hello, it's so good to see you.
Thank you. I'm really thrilled to be here. Hi, everybody. I love the San Francisco Jewish Film Festival. I make movies to bring them there, the Jewish ones and the not so Jewish ones. And you're really my audience in so many ways. So I'm thrilled. I was looking forward to being with you this summer. When I was making the movie, I was like, okay, it'll really be a homecoming because I brought a healthy baby girl to you in 1997. And this is kind of the end of 25 years, 30 years of that story. So anyway, I'm thrilled to be here and I'm happy to see all of you.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you here. And thank you for being here and for sharing your film. As you said in the introduction, Love and Stuff is in conversation with some of your previous films. And it gives us a chance to learn a lot about you as a filmmaker, as a woman, daughter, and mother. I was deeply touched by the kindness and vulnerability that emerged from this film, how you weave together and portray an array of themes that are personal, cultural, and environmental. And I felt that my own attachment and love for objects, places, and people was challenged in very interesting ways. So thank you. And I'll be really curious to see how this resonated with our audience.
Me too. Bonnie Burt said that her mother died 2 years ago and she still can't let go of a lot of her stuff. And she thanked me for giving voice to the letting go process. That's the first person who said that, like use those words to give voice to the letting go process. I really appreciate that. And my condolences.
Thank you. So, a powerful lesson on letting go for sure. We're gonna open the floor for questions in a minute. So again, I invite you all to turn on your cameras and show your faces. I know Judith is eager for us all to see each other and be in community. So I hope we can all be good hosts for this conversation. You can use the Q&A function or the chat to ask your questions, and I will pass them on to Judith when the moment comes. So Judith, I'd like to start by asking you a question first. In this moment of global crisis, it must be a unique experience to be a filmmaker and to do this virtually rather than in theaters. And yet, as I watch Love and Stuff, I think there's something about the intimacy of your film and the courage with which you open your doors to let the cameras and us spectators into your home that resonates with the lockdown, with this collective imperative of facing impermanence and death. And we've all been immersed in our objects and surrounded by the people that we live with in some cases. So I'm curious to just begin by asking you how you are feeling about this particular situation, and how is this all moving through you and your filmmaking, and maybe even if it helped you think about Love and Stuff in new ways.
Well, as you were saying that, I was thinking to myself, I was always a little worried that the movie was too insular, that we don't go many places. It's mostly inside my house, my mother's apartment, the storage facility. Well, that's the piece that's not there, but so I think, and then or my parents' old houses, so I think we don't really go anywhere, but nobody's going anywhere. So it's actually the perfect quarantine movie, because in a way, because I think it speaks to this moment that we're all in, which is, we're home with our stuff and with our feelings and with our family to the extent that we can be with them, and maybe we're just with them on Zoom. So I think it's an interesting movie to be bringing out right now. I think the thing that I think the most about is that I feel so grateful that I got to be with my mother at the end of her life, that I got to sit a real shiva, and that I got to have a real funeral, and that my family was surrounded by people who loved us, and that I got that experience, and that I got to, be next to her and in her home, for the 2 months leading up to her death. And that's something that people are not getting. So I can't, I know what the grief was like when I lost her. I can't imagine the grief of not being able to have the kind of grief that you really need, which is in community, or to not get to be with your loved one at the end of their life, let alone have the opportunity to create a home hospice. So, those were things I understood. I knew that I had a grace period, that each step of that process was actually quite extraordinary, and I was very, very lucky. But it's only now that I understand, A, how lucky I was, but B, that, I don't want this new normal to be the normal. I don't want to have Zoom shivas. And I know when this is over, as my daughter says, when the corona is over, we're all going to need to do a lot of support of people who have been grieving during this period of time, but didn't get to do it in community.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I want to ask a second question about a detail that I noticed in the film, that is the green labels, the green stickers that you use to indicate the objects that you want to hold on to. And it made me really reflect on the commentary that your film is also about filmmaking, right? You're thinking about life and loved ones, but you're constantly thinking about filmmaking. And I think that's such a metaphor of, and I'm sure anyone who's ever made a movie or edited a movie can relate to that process of cutting a film and having to let go of a lot of footage, right? Having to make a choice. So I think these two things go well together. So we kind of go back to that idea of letting go. And I know there's a lot of metaphors that come up throughout the film, the camera as the umbilical cord that links a mother and a daughter, and also this metaphor of, shedding layers and letting go of things and letting things behind. And so I'm curious if there's anything that resonates for you in that process of filmmaking and the process of cleaning out all these boxes.
The problem of filming a process like that is that you actually can't do it. I would start to feel like I can't do this unless the camera is here. Like I can't go through this process unless we're actually shooting it, which actually makes the process much longer and much more complicated. And it also makes it a little more fun. It's an incredible gift to be able to make art out of the thing that is the most painful or the thing that you're most frightened of. And I could not have gone through those boxes by myself. Like I had to do something with it. I just had to. So, you know, the green labels, I mean, that was literally just so we knew who was going to take what. And we learned that from somebody else who had told my mother, you know, I don't want my children to be fighting. I'm making the choices. I'm putting the labels on everything. By the time I'm dead, there's going to be a label on everything in the house. So my mother I remembered my mother telling me this. So we used that. But, you know, I guess I didn't want to just let go. I needed to document it. I needed to make art out of the stuff that I let go of and even the stuff that I kept, which, you know, I have a couple of things sitting next to me. I thought I might share them. It seems like there's a question over here.
Yes. So the question that someone is asking is if you ever were ever able to fully clean out yours and your mom's stuff. And also someone is asking if folks in New York and Israel can see the film.
Well, folks in New York will be able to see the film when we screen it in New York. I hope that'll be at Doc NYC. And in Israel, I hope that we'll be sharing it at a film festival there soon. I'm not sure which one. Yeah, you know, we just started bringing this film out. I mean, this is the second film festival that we've been to. It's very, very new. I mean, it was just in Hot Docs in Canada, and that's it.
And about the first part of the question, if you were able to fully clean out stuff.
Well, my mother's house was fully cleaned out, and then I brought it home. And I mean, you saw what happened. I still have some stuff. I still have some stuff I have to finish going through for sure. But I made a big point of like really trying to integrate it so that the stuff in our house would be something that, you know, A, that I would use it, and B, my daughter would grow up with it and it would become a part of our life. So, you know, like we use these are my grandmother's candlesticks. And, you know, we use this when we make challah, which we've done a couple of times with Tiffany. And, you know, this was my like grandmother's rolling pin. I mean, those are the more practical things. I mean, like my father's, you know, my grandfather's magnifying glass, which my father took because he couldn't get rid of it. So, you know, my mother's father's pipe. I mean, you know, my favorite thing in the world is, you know, my mother's egg slicer for Passover. So, I mean, I tried to make things as like practical as possible. And then I did some impractical things, like I couldn't bear to part with all this beautiful clothing. So I sent it to a lady who I wanted to make quilts out of them, but I wanted to shoot it. And I didn't want her to do anything with it until we could come and shoot it. Then we actually never got to shoot it because we decided we didn't really need that for the movie. And then I really couldn't afford to make them anymore. So they're still in boxes, I hope, at her place, or maybe she gave them away, which would probably be the smart thing because someone else could really use them. So, you know, it's a process. I wish I wasn't so attached to stuff, but I am. Looks like Janice has a question because she's leaning forward. And now I'm making her laugh.
Maybe we can Janice, if she has a question who wants to ask it.
Yes, I think you're right, Bonnie. You know, I think it's not fair to like leave it to your children and expect that they're going to want it. And in fact, that's one of the things that I really learned most from my mother. She really wanted to go through all this material with me. I think to give it context, to like make sure that there was no storyless stuff so that we could make choices and that we would really understand what the stuff was, and what the photographs were and who was in them, and lots of things that I wish I had the courage to do. So one of the things that I'm trying to do as part of the engagement with this movie is to do what I'm calling is to teach people how to do stuff review sessions with their parents while their parents or their loved ones are still around, and to actually use that as an opportunity to talk about the end of life and not be afraid to do it. So my, you know, like, I think you could like start with the candlesticks and get to the do not resuscitate order in a way that is actually quite natural and feels right and okay and safe.
Yeah.
So I've done one so far here in New York as part of the Reimagine Festival. And I'm hoping to do a lot more, especially if you're only connected to your loved ones via Zoom. You know, how do you use Zoom? How can you use that time really well? That's something that I'm encouraging people to do.
Yeah, it seems like from what you're describing, there's like a difference in generations, how we get attached to objects and how we value them. And I think in your film that comes up really well.
Wow. Somebody who I went to camp with, Denise Hoffner, said she hasn't seen me since her Sweet 16. Hi. She also said a lot of things about stuff in the chat.
So Judith, maybe as we wait for more questions to come in, I'm sure people have a lot of things to ask. I wanted to ask you something about that. I know you've done documentaries that have played at the festival that had also an interest in exploring themes like environmental justice, but always through your personal story. So I'm curious about how you manage, like what's the process to get to such an intimate, portrait of yourself, self-portrait, and at the same time addressing themes that are, culturally relevant, like environmental justice, or I'm thinking about Healthy Baby Girl, for example.
It's not that hard to be personal. It just isn't. I don't know why, but it's not. And I actually think environmental justice is a very, very personal thing. I think the people who get harmed experience it in a very, very personal way and in a way that reverberates for generations. And that's why I tried to make a Healthy Baby Girl, which I consider it an environmental movie and also a Jewish movie for sure. I wanted it to be in the personal because I wanted to create a model for people to understand that it's like families and personal relationships that get hurt by toxic chemical exposure. It's always personal. So I've always tried to take that approach. I mean, I tried to do that in Blue Vinyl, and I think I certainly tried to do that in Cooked, which I brought to the festival last year. Somebody says they'd love to see my daughter now. If it would be too much to ask, would she mind a small cameo? Sandy, I could ask her. Theo, could you come and say hi? It'd be nice. Okay, just come say hi. Okay, yeah, because we have 1 more minute, and then you guys have your festival, like ending night thing, right?
We have a few more minutes, and I know there's a couple more questions.
Okay. Yes.
Did Janice curious about learning more about film as therapy in letting go?
Yes. You want to say hi? No, please. Okay.
Wait, first I want to tell you something.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
I want to get my entire teeth.
No.
Okay, fine. Whatever.
Okay, just say hi. Say hi. So all these people saw the movie that we made together, Love and Stuff. What do you think about that?
Sure.
Yeah. So remember last year we went to San Francisco and we went to the film festival for Cooked? Theo? Yes. Okay. All right. So there you have it. You have a cameo. She's sick and she's not sick. She's 6 and she's sick and tired of being in the house. She's sick of masks. She can't stand the coronavirus. And that's why she's looking like that, right? Yeah. Okay.
And how to make my face red.
Okay.
We feel you.
I think that's the best we're gonna get. Okay, that's the best we're gonna get. Okay.
So,
that is how Theo is doing, Linda Rothfeld. Yes.
So I think Janice had a question about film as therapy and letting go. I don't know if she directed it to you privately, but I know she's been eager to ask that.
Film as therapy and letting go. I mean, I don't really think about it as therapy, but I would say that making art is therapeutic for me. So and I find great joy in it. And I find great joy in translating what my gut hunches are. Wow, what I'm going through right now is a very universal thing. And I've just I've just stepped my toe into something that everyone is going to experience or everyone has experienced. And if I could explore it a little bit and maybe even make people laugh, maybe it'll be less terrifying for me and it'll be less terrifying for them. So, you know, I'm also like, I guess I'm terrified of being alone with things that I'm terrified of. So I like having a crew around because it's cathartic. It's fun. It makes me feel less alone at the moments that I'm probably my most alone.
Thank you. Yes, that's I was struck by the many moments of community building around you, you know, when you were going through different moments of this process of letting go and then becoming a mom. So someone asked in the chat, Bonnie is asking in the chat, how big a crew do you work with?
I would say, I mean, in general, probably about 4 of us. You know, the biggest crew I've ever had was when, you know, we had the last big scene of Blue Vinyl. You know, we had a crane and we had a jib and we had a lot of things going on. So maybe there was like 10 people in my backyard in Merrick, Long Island, while my parents, I was making them string Blue Vinyl tchotchkes till 1 or 2 in the morning, but it's never a big crew.
Okay.
Thank you for the applause for Theo. I appreciate that.
So many applauses for Theo. Yes, definitely. I would like to be mindful of time because
yeah, Ann Eisenberg, I'll just say, I wasn't 50 when I started the adoption process. I was in my mid 40s, early 40s, and things stopped and started and stopped and started. And by the time I was really ready and my mother was dying and it was not perfect timing, they really trusted me. And they actually, my agency believed that it was fine for me to adopt a baby in my late 40s and maybe even if I turned 50. Lots of agency wouldn't, but this agency did. And, you know, I mean, I'm honest about the math. I do worry about it, but there's lots of things to worry about. And, you know, what I realized is all we could do is just really make peace with what we have today and what we have this year. And, you know, I could do all the math I want, but it doesn't really matter, you know. Unfortunately, people die when they're really young. People die when they're really old. People die when they die. So I just have to make the most of right now. I'm not going anywhere. Don't worry. We're just talking about age. So.
Thank you, Judith. This is a wonderful note to end on. So please join me in thanking Judith for being here. Big round of applause. Thank you, Theo, for appearing on camera for us in the film and tonight. Thank you, Judith, for sharing your amazing work, and we hope to see you soon at the festival, maybe in person. So
yeah, I think that the festival should have all of us who did Cinegogue Weekend should be able to come back to the live festival whenever that next live face-to-face festival is.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
We'll arrange that. Thank you all so much for coming tonight to Cinegogue Summer Days, and we hope to see you at the cocktail hour.
To all my friends, Janice and Michael, all of you, thank you. And Denise, thank you so much for being there. It was lovely to see you. Okay. Good night, everybody. Bye.
Good night.